Hi everybody, my name's Matthew. Now, the library summer reading series theme for 2020 is myths and legends. So I've put together a story of American myths and legends because every legend has a song and story. Sing you some songs and to tell you some wild stories all about legends and myths from American history, because every legend has a song and story. Every legend has a song. Sing that. Every legend has a song and story. Every legend has a song and story. Some of them are true and some are not, and some are in between. But every legend is fun to hear, and every song is fun to sing, because every legend has a song and story. Every legend has a song and story. Sing it again. Every legend has a song and story. Every legend has a song and story. All right, let's begin. The first one we're going to talk about, one of the earliest American legends, is Johhny Appleseed. And the story of Johhny Appleseed is a great chapter in American history. It is based on the life of a real man named John Chapman, a real explorer who lived more than 200 years ago. His story grew into a tall tale after being told so many times by so many people and so many generations, year after year. And now his legend is as big as the many trees he planted along the way. John Chapman was born in a log cabin in Massachusetts. In the late 1700s, the United States was a brand new country then, and people were moving west into Pennsylvania, Maryland, Ohio, and Kentucky. When John Chapman was 20 years old, he decided to leave home to see what was beyond the next hill, and the next, and the next. He carried just a few coins and wore a cook pot for a hat. Well, after some traveling, he was looking over the great Hudson Valley. Few white people had ever been to this part of the country, and there were no maps or signs to show the way to go. There were no roads, so John followed Indian trails. He would walk each day until he got tired, and then he would find a big oak tree and lie down under it for a nap. John loved trees, and he got to know them well since he spent all his time in forests. One day, in the first autumn of his journey, he was out of food and very cold and hungry. All of a sudden, he came to a clearing that looked like a deserted farm. There was nobody around. The fields were full of weeds. But at the edge of a clearing, he saw a beautiful sight, an apple orchard. The trees were heavy with fruit. So John went over and ate apples until he was full. When he finished his meal, John looked at the apple cores on the ground. They formed a pattern that looked like an arrow pointing west. He thought, this is a sign. And at that moment, John Chapman decided he would line his path with apple trees. He said to himself, then someday apple trees will point the way west. Well, John stayed at the farm until he regained his strength. He saved all his seeds from the apples that he ate, and then he started on his trip west. And soon there were lots of other people moving west too. John met them and told them of his dream for apples, apple trees all across the west. He gave seeds and small trees to anyone who wanted them. Whenever he came to a farmhouse or clearing, he would plant a row of apple trees. And one day, John was standing in a town square, telling all the people about apple trees. A young boy called out, You tell him, Johhny Appleseed. And the nickname stuck. And after that, wherever he went, people would say, there goes Johhny Appleseed. People began telling more and more wild stories about him. Some are true, some were made up, but all are fun. They say he saved a wild wolf by freeing her leg from a large hunter's trap, and the wolf became his best friend. They say that one winter, when the river was too icy to travel by canoe, John put his canoe and his wolf on a big chunk of ice and traveled down the river on that chunk of ice. They say that one time he saved a pioneer family from being attacked by hostile Indians. The Indians gathered around Johhny Appleseed and said, instead, well, he slowly reached into his pack and took out a handful of apple seeds. He tossed them in a circle on the ground around himself. The ground sparked when the seeds landed. There was a giant crack as the seeds turned into saplings. Just like that, the seedlings grew and grew until they were full-grown trees. The branches shook as the trees began to bear fruit, and in less than a minute's time, the seeds had exploded into grown trees full of fruit. The Native Americans were quite impressed by that. They picked up the apples and tasted them. More and more people gathered around and ate their fill. The Indian chief said, you are our friend, and from that day on, they were friends. And that's exactly what might have happened. True tale or tall tale, the legend of Johhny Appleseed is one of America's great stories. John Chapman may be gone, but his legend and his trees live on. And I got a song about Johhny Appleseed. I got it. Got to get the key. Oh, my name is Johhny Appleseed. John, it's a big wide world we're living in. Sweet red, green, and golden apples grow wherever I've been. I must journey across the river, across the hill where the trail leads west. When I come back, what shall I bring to the dear ones I love best? Oh, Johnny, bring me purple flowers, herbs that grow where the big waters fall. Sweet red, green, and golden apples I love best of all. He brought bouquets of purple blossoms, fresh creamy broil and catnip too. Then in all the lands of the great frontier, not a single apple tree grew. So he said to the folks of the cider presses, give me your pulp when the nectar's gone. I'll scatter seeds in the wilderness, or my name ain't Appleseed John. Hey, my name is Johhny Appleseed John. It's a big wide world we're living in. Sweet red, green, and golden apples grow wherever I've been. Sing it. Oh, my name is Johhny Appleseed John. It's a big wide world we're living in. Sweet red, green, and golden apples grow wherever I've been. All right. Well, we're going to move on to more myths and legends in the next video. And so after you're finished here, it'll be called American Myths and Legends Part 2. I'll see you at the next video. Bye now.